What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and now, day number 3 of my 32 teams, 32 days NFL previews. Today, the Baltimore Ravens. If you haven't watched the first 2 episodes of this series, I'll leave the links down below, as always, because you're going to want to watch them. I know you will. I'm just that good. No, I'm kidding. Today, either way, we're previewing the Baltimore Ravens, and these guys, they came out of nowhere. Last year had the best record in the entire NFL, 14-2, after losing the AFC Divisional Playoffs against the Tennessee Titans, a team that just ran all over them. Man, I remember watching that game, coming back from winter break with me and some of my buddies, and we were like, what is happening here? Derrick Henry played phenomenal in that game. Kudos to them, Mike Vrabel, and the head coach. But 2020, I think this Ravens team will come back with a vengeance, and it all starts with reigning league MVP Lamar Jackson. The Ravens, he led this team to a remarkable season, obviously 14-2 record. He threw, I don't know his exact stats off my head, but he was phenomenal all year round. Reigning MVP, obviously, as a thrower and as a rusher, although he doesn't love running the football as much, he has shown he can do it. I mean, it all started with that Week 1 game against the Miami Dolphins where he had 5 touchdowns. And he had that press conference where he said, not bad for a running back. He just has a certain swagger, and I think that carries for the rest of that team. You see it with Mark Ingram, his personal hype man, and they got guys like Marquise Hollywood Brown. The guy, his nickname is Hollywood. I mean, come on. They have a top 5 coach, in my opinion, in John Harbaugh, who simply has gotten the best out of Jackson during his young career. And I think the reason for that is because Harbaugh, he had a system that worked well with Joe Flacco and for the majority of his career. And then he sees Lamar Jackson, who is not like the quarterbacks he's coached in the past. He's changed his system in a way to where Jackson can thrive. And when he also has a backup in Robert Griffin III. So if God forbid Jackson would ever miss time, you could probably plug RG3 in there that he might not be at the level of Lamar Jackson, but he could still thrive as well. And I think that works really, really well. I think that's partially why Jackson struggled in his rookie year when filling in for Joe Flacco, because the system wasn't tailored to him. Harbaugh has done a great job of tailoring an offensive game plan to Lamar Jackson and his skill set. They signed Calais Campbell in free agency to add to an already very stout defense with Earl Thomas, Marcus Peters, Matthew Judon, Marlon Humphrey, and Brandon Williams. The Ravens already had a top defense last season. This season, their defense could get even better. I mentioned Hollywood Brown at wide receiver. I think that's the one thing they need. They need another receiver. Antonio Brown has been rumored to sign with this team. Who knows? There's obviously a lot of craziness there with Antonio Brown, given his last couple of stops in the NFL in New England and Oakland. Mark Andrews has emerged as a top tight end, and he's already committed to playing the 2020 season despite having type 1 diabetes and being his pre-existing condition with the coronavirus going on. He is expected to play, so good for him. He was phenomenal in the run game and the pass game. I mentioned Mark Ingram. He's in the back half of his career. He will play well, I think, but he will also serve as a mentor for J.K. Dobbins to pass the torch and be the future running back of this team. Looking at the Ravens schedule, I have them going 12-4. I'll leave the exact wins and losses down below, but they start off versus Cleveland at home, which I think is a big, big game for them, given the Browns. They split the matchups against the Browns last year. I have them doing the same this year just because the Browns look to be significantly better. But then they go at Houston versus Kansas City week 3. That game, last year it was phenomenal. This year I think it can be even better, especially in Baltimore if there's fans. Woo. Week 4 they play their DMV rivals, I guess you could say, in the Washington, because the Redskins are no longer the team's name. It's now Washington for now. Then they play Cincinnati week 5, Philadelphia week 6, Pittsburgh week 7, a rivalry game leading them right into their bye week in week 8. Very good for them. They get a nice middle of the season bye so they can rest up and gear up for the rest of their season. Week 9 they play at Indianapolis. Then they go on the road to New England. That's a tricky game for them. I would not be surprised, although I have the Ravens winning that game, I would not be surprised if New England pulls one out because given the success they had last year, Bill Belichick is working on a scheme to slow down Lamar Jackson. I might even change my rankings right now and say that the Ravens might lose that game. You know what? I'm going to keep it for now. It's tough. You know what? I do think Baltimore's going to lose that game. I'm changing my predictions right here, right now. So I have the Ravens now going 11-5. They'll still be in the playoffs. Don't worry about that. Then week 11, they play a big-time game against Tennessee, who, after losing to the Titans in the playoffs last season, you have to imagine that this Ravens team is going to come out swinging against the Titans in week 11 at home too. If there's fans, watch out. Week 12, Thanksgiving game, I believe, at Pittsburgh, another big-time game. That stretch is going to be tough. Weeks 10 to week 14, because they also play Dallas and Cleveland weeks 13 and 14. From week 10 to week 14, there are no easy games, at least how they project. The Ravens will be tough, but I think they can do it. They play Jacksonville, New York Giants, and Cincinnati weeks 15 through 17. So an easy finish, so probably 3-0, those final three games, coming off a gauntlet stretch for them. That will be crucial. Excuse me. Overall, though, looking at the schedule, in my opinion, I do think the Ravens have one of the easier schedules. I felt this way because they're almost guaranteed 4 to 5 wins against the division. They're going to sweep Cincinnati. They're going to, I think, split games against Cleveland and split games against Pittsburgh. That's how I have it right now. They also play Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Washington, and the Giants. That's another 4 wins right there. Probably, maybe 3. So that's, if they win 4 in their division, like I project, and then 4, those games like I just mentioned, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Washington, and the Giants, that's 8 right there. They only really need 3 more to win, 3 more to win their division, 4 or 5 to clinch a playoff spot or clinch a number 1 seed. Houston, that's going to be a tough game. I'll be totally honest. I do have them winning that one, though, because I'm not super high on Houston this season. But the game I'm most looking forward to, and let's stop beating around the bush, it's week 3 against Kansas City at home. Last season, the Chiefs won that game in their home building. This season, in Baltimore, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, the reigning 2 NFL MVPs. It's just going to be haymakers on haymakers on haymakers. I cannot wait for this game. I'm very, very excited. Dallas, that will be another game in week 13 at home. Fortunately for Baltimore, I think Dallas, given how good their offense projects to be, this will be a nice test for their defense, the Ravens, because there's a run element with Dallas and Ezekiel Elliott, and as well as a passing game element, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. That could pose some problems, who knows, but I definitely think this could be a good game for the Ravens. And then that Tennessee game, like I mentioned, behind week 3 against Kansas City, week 11, against Tennessee. That game, I think they're going to come out looking to take the heads off players, especially Derrick Henry, given all the success he had against them in the divisional round. Overall, the 5 games I'm looking forward to the most is week 2 against the Texans, just because Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson, 2 of the top young quarterbacks in the game. Week 3, like I already mentioned, Chiefs at Ravens. Week 11, Titans at Ravens. Week 12, Thanksgiving, like I said, against their rivals, the Steelers, and then week 13 against Dallas, against America's team, also on Thursday Night Football. Could be huge for both teams in that sense, especially as the playoff comes around. The Ravens, I'm flip-flopping. I have them 12-4, 11-5. You know, I'm gonna go back. I do think they'll beat New England 12-4. That's a game they could lose, and I'm gonna talk a little bit further on that one. Bill Belichick, one of the best coaches of all time, got demolished by John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson in that Ravens offense last year. I don't think he'll allow it to happen again, just given how bad the loss was, and especially now that game will be at New England. But, I mean, that offense is too good in Baltimore. But don't be surprised if the Patriots pull one out there. So, I'll say it right now. 12-4 with an asterisk, because the Patriots could definitely win that game, especially now that they have Cam Newton. But, overall, though, I do have the Ravens finishing 12-4. I'm going to stick to my original guns. I have them finishing second in the AFC not first this year. They fall back one spot. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to come out, have a phenomenal year. They'll regain the number 1 seed. But I do think the Ravens can make some noise. I think this year they had success last year during the regular season, and then they had that heartbreaking loss. I think this year they have something to prove, especially Lamar Jackson. And I think they are one of the few teams that could definitely win the Super Bowl. I think the Ravens are in that conversation. I think Kansas City's in that conversation. Seattle, San Francisco, New Orleans are all in that conversation of teams that could win the Super Bowl. Maybe it is. Maybe someone out of the blue comes out and wins. You never know. But with all that being said, let's wrap this thing up. Thank you all so much for watching. How do you think the Ravens will do this season? Will they be the top team in the NFL once again this year? Or will they regress slightly like I think they will? Stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to go Buffalo Bills because no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Thank y'all once again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your comments down below. Watch the rest of this series. That will be in the description. And have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.